The Washington War, FDR's Inner Circle and the Politics of Power That Won World War II by James Lacey. In 2018, while I was working on my Ph.D. at the Military History Center at the University of North Texas, Dr. James Lacey spoke about his then upcoming book, The Washington War. It was a very interesting presentation, and I eagerly looked forward to reading it. I finally got around to it a while back, and I was not disappointed. The book is a wonderful examination of FDR and top American policymakers during World War II. Lacey spends a good deal of time considering the relationship between the military, the administration, and industry. Frequently, policymakers from each had their own agendas and schemes, and constantly butted heads with their opposite numbers. Lacey also goes into detail toward the end of the book on battles between American and British political and military leaders. I was especially interested in his thoughts about U.S. Army Chief of Staff George C. Marshall, as my own research explored his role in the war. Perhaps one of the most interesting aspects of this book is the portrait Lacey paints of FDR. The president is presented warts and all, a brilliant wartime leader that deferred to his military higher-ups on operational and supply matters, but set overall strategy and policy. In many ways, Lacey illustrates a presidential leadership style that was not totally dissimilar from that of FDR's opponent, Adolf Hitler. Both FDR and Hitler frequently set up organizations and offices with specific briefs and appointed political supporters to run them. When they failed to do the job, rather than replace them or disband the organization, both FDR and Hitler would set up a similar agency with competing competencies, then let them battle it out among themselves. Both the President and the Fuhrer relished their position as the ultimate decision-maker that often had to intervene in order to make a final decision. Lacey does a fantastic job of showing the political and bureaucratic gridlock that plagued Washington throughout much of the war, the means that were employed to overcome them, and the personalities that emerged victorious. If I have any criticisms, it's that the last 50 pages aren't quite as compelling as earlier chapters. Lacey notes that after the Turan Conference in late 1943, the Washington War was essentially finished. The overall strategy for Overlord, the D-Day landings, had been approved after years of British opposition and obfuscation. Still, the political and military duels that so animated the bulk of this work are largely absent from the later chapters. Not a huge criticism, and certainly no reason to stay away from this fine history. In many ways, the Washington War reminded me of another book that explored many of these same issues, Thomas Fleming's The New Dealers' War, which likewise is a fine history covering this period. All told, The Washington War is a fantastic book that brilliantly explores the complexities of American political leadership during the nation's greatest crisis. Both students new to the subject and veteran academics will be educated and entertained by Lacey's work. I highly recommend it.